Hello friends, this is Durga from IT Varsity. At this time we are talking about developing word count application to understand the complete development lifecycle of Spark applications using Scala as programming language. And one of the important thing is externalizing the properties. So what is the properties? So for example, if you want to connect to a relational database, you need to build JDBC URL. And for that you need to get the host name, port number, database name, credentials, etc. So we will take a very simple example, and you have seen that we are actually hard coding the execution mode to local to run our application as Spark application. And as I have explained earlier, there are other execution modes also, like standalone, Mesos, or YARN. So typically, when you test it in your development environment using IDE, you tend to test it in local mode or standalone mode, and then in production you might have to submit the job in YARN mode. So you want to run in different modes in different environments. So instead of hard coding like this, we should be able to pass at runtime about how you want to run your application. For that, we need to externalize it. And the externalizing can be done using a third-party Scala plugin called typesafe config. Okay, you can go to Google and search for typesafe config, and it will give the details about the plugin. Okay, so as we are using SBT, this is how we can add the dependencies. So first thing you need to do is go to build.sbt and add the dependencies to it. So now we have Spark dependencies and also typesafe config dependencies. And if you go through the documentation here, so to load the configuration properties using typesafe config, you need to create a directory under source main by name resources. Sorry, I have to create a directory under source main resources, and here you have to create a file called application.properties, and you have to follow certain standards. The location has to be source main resources so that we can use a straightforward load command to load the properties automatically without writing complex code. And also you need to define the file name using one of the four standard file names which typesafe config understands, and those are application.conf, application.json, application.properties, and reference.conf. If you use application.json, the properties has to be in JSON format. With application.properties, you can actually define using equal to the property name equal to property value. Okay, and in that I want to create two properties, one for dev execution mode, dev.execution mode, and I want to run it in local mode, and in prod I want to run it in YARN mode. So here we have to say YARN client, and in UAT probably I want to run it in standalone mode. And for standalone, I have to give the URL of the standalone server, and the URL will be something like this. Okay, so we need to have a Spark master running on that URL, and then we can actually run in standalone mode as well. Okay, so I'm saving it here, and then you can go to word count program, and first thing you need to do is you have to import com.typesafe.config._. Okay, and then you can use APIs under that package to load the properties which are defined in application.properties using a straightforward method. So let me create a variable here, val props is the variable name, and then we have config factory, that is the class we have to use, and then there is a load method here. Okay, and then the properties will have all the properties which are there in application.properties. So this fact, the underlying APIs have the logic of going through the source main resources directory, look for files which matches those 4 files, application.properties, application.json, etc., and load that file. Okay, once that is done, while defining master, we can read the property, and to read the property in dev we have to pass an argument by name dev. In production we have to pass an argument by name prod. In UAT we have to pass argument by name UAT. Okay, so depending upon the environment you are running, you have to pass one of the argument so that we can read appropriate properties from the properties file. If there are properties which are common across all the platforms or all the environments, you just have without the prefix of dev, UAT, prod, etc. But if it is specific to a particular environment, you have to have prefix like this: dev, UAT, prod, etc. Okay, so now what we can do is, so I would like to pass the first argument to the program as the environment in which we are going to run the program. So the input path will be the second one. So first I am making changes to the input path and output path, and then here I have to say props dot get config, because we want to read all the properties which starts with the environment in which we are running. So if there are 10 properties with dev, we want to read all those properties, and then I want to check for execution mode or whatever property relevant for that line piece for that piece of code. So in this case I just need to get to the execution mode, and to get the execution mode first I have to read all the properties which are required, which are created for the environment in which we are running the program. So in this case we have to say get config, and then we have to say arguments of 0, because the first argument is the environment in which we are trying to run the program. Okay, and then once you get all the properties with dev, we can say dot, and here the data type of value is string, which returns local or yarn client or Spark URL depending upon which environment you are running. So we have to use an API called getString. If the value is of different type, you have to use different get function. As we are trying to read the string, we are using getString, and here we have to say execution mode. So this will evolve into get the value of dev dot execution mode, or whatever argument we pass as part of first one. So args of 0 dot execution mode. If it is dev dot execution mode. If it is prod dot execution mode, and then it will set the execution mode based upon the value. Okay, so that being said, you need to understand few more things. If you have too many properties, it is not good idea to invoke props.getConfig each and every time you read the property. The way you can do is, you can say val environment props, and then say props dot get config, args of 0, and then here you can just say environment props. Okay, so in that case, whenever you want to access particular property, you just have to say environment props dot get. If it is integer, you have to use getInt. If it is string, you have to use getString, etc. Okay, now you can actually go to tools, sorry, not tools, run, edit configurations. Here I am validating in the dev environment. So I am passing the first argument as dev, second argument is input path, and third argument is output path. Click OK, and then say run. So when we run in dev, it will use local mode to run the program. Once it is done, I will also try to show you how we can actually run in standalone mode by using UAT as the first parameter. So there is some issue here. Key execution mode. Dev.execution mode. Okay, so 1 minute. It is saying no configuration setting found for key. So let me go to run, edit configurations, and let me first review the argument. It is correct. So let me troubleshoot it. Yeah, it ran fine. I think earlier the spelling might have some typo. That's why it failed, but now it worked without any issue. I didn't make any changes except that I copy pasted the property name from here. Okay, and I want to use the same name for all the three so that it will not result in typos later. Now we will also see how to run this in standalone mode. For that, on the command line, we have to start master, and then we have to start slave. Once the master and slave are started, then I can go to run, edit configurations, and then first property I want to change it to UAT so that it actually run in standalone mode. Now I can say run, or right click here and run word count. Now you can see program is running without any issues. Okay, there was some exception here. Let me check what that exception is. It is failing in standalone mode for some reason. I think I might not be able to run this using IDE in standalone mode. Let me demonstrate this as part of next video when I will run the same program as jar file in using the local Spark installation as well as on the cluster, and then I will try to explain about this at that time. But for now, we have successfully added a third-party plugin called typesafe config to read external properties such as execution mode, and also we have successfully demonstrated about how to run the program by passing additional argument called dev, which will actually launch the job in local mode without hard coding the execution mode, and we will build jar file out of it. We will run using standalone in the local Spark setup, and also we'll try to run this on the cluster in yarn mode as part of next few videos. That being said, thank you, bye.